Welcome to the Overrated Underdog. When it comes to sports, we know what we're talking about, and we bring it every time. What's up, underdogs? Let's do this. This is the Overrated Underdog, and this is your host, Tobias Barkley.
What is good, underdogs? Welcome to the special fight episode of Overrated Underdog with my guy, Dustin Taylor. This guy knows a lot about fighting, whether it be himself fighting or watching the sport of MMA. Obviously, more importantly, he is a recording artist and a fellow podcaster on the Dustin Taylor podcast. Dustin, introduce yourself to the people and let others know why they should maybe respect your opinion when it comes to the sport of fighting.
Pleasure to be here, my brother. Pleasure to be here. Dustin Taylor, as you mentioned on top, boxed for about 10 years of my life. Been training in MMA for 4 to 5 now, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 2-3, Muay Thai for 5. I studied the game. I loved the game. The game changed my life, taught me self-discipline, just motivation, drive, to really get the job done when you got to do it in all aspects of life. I never miss a card. I never miss a podcast, whether it be Bisping, Schaub, Chael. I listen to all the analytics. So an MMA enthusiast, to say the least, and eventually step in there myself. But it's a pleasure to be here, brother.
So then you've never missed a card, so you might have more of, well, I guess Jake Paul's still brand new to the fight scene, but tell us about Tyron Woodley. Like, how is he as a UFC fighter, and how do you think that that's going to transfer over into the boxing ring?
So if we're talking long-term career, amazing. The guy was up like pound for pound regards as number one in the welterweight division, right next to GSP. You know what I mean? So. The guy is top tier, Hall of Fame, legend. Now, a lot of people like to hold on to his last 4 fights, because he was on the opposing end of those from the wins. So he's 4 losses out from his career, and a lot of people hold that over his head, but they don't really realize, I think, that they've come from everybody in the top 3 of the UFC welterweight division, what most will classify as the top pound-for-pound promotion in the entire world. So they might still have it mistaken that they're not. He might be the washed-up Tyron Woodley to some per se. Yeah. But this guy's still a top 5. If you want to be nice about it, at least top 10 welterweight in the entire world to this day. You know what
Currently
I mean? So let's not lose sight of that. Going into this fight.
So the thing that I was trying to wrap my mind, over with sort of the Ben Askren fight, but especially with this fight, because as you're speaking, Tyron Woodley is still considered probably top 10 to this day in his his weight class. We've got jiu-jitsu, you got ground and pound, you've got every type of fighter, whether it's GSP or the Diaz brothers in the UFC. What style in the UFC was Tyron Woodley?
Wrestler,
okay.
Yeah. Predominantly wrestling, but he transferred definitely in the middle of his career, I'd say, to striking. Fell in love with that overhand right. He got a lot of finishes with that. Like I said, in the latter half of his career, definitely slowed down. He definitely fought a lot smarter, which isn't always the best for the fans, but he got the job done. Not majority of the time, like I said, until the last 4 fights of his career.
So then if he's taking away the aspects of everything else, right? Obviously, when you're in the octagon, you need to watch out for leg kicks and you need to look out for elbows and takedowns and grapples and all this. It's no longer just striking. Do you think this is going to be an easier fight for him per se because he's so used to monitoring everything and now he needs to just focus on one aspect of fighting? How do you think he's going to go into this fight against Jake Paul?
A couple ways to look at this. So Jake has trained 4 years straight. I mean, straight in the one discipline of boxing. So when you're a mixed martial artist, you're like you said, you're training jiu-jitsu, wrestling, depending on types of wrestling. You might, depending on your striking background, karate, Muay Thai, boxing, and so forth. So there's so many disciplines across the board that it's hard to really focus on the one. And that being said, when it comes to Tyron Woodley, how much time has he put into the boxing? Because I know what his I know anyone can call it, say, an excuse for the latter half of his career was being undisciplined and going out in these other avenues, whether it be music, acting, or whatever else he was dipping into. I know he was doing a lot, and he accredited his downfall to it. So when I see in the All Access, let's say, it shows Jake Paul coming out of going into an ice bath, talking, hungry, talking about these are the things that you need to do right now to sharpen your mind and, get to that next step mentally in the discipline aspect. And then the next scene, it cuts to Tyron in the recording studio.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I'm like, I want him to take this serious, because this is a huge, huge opportunity for him to, fill his bank account that he has mentioned that is lacking at the current moment, and B, to actually revitalize the last half of his career that he had in the UFC and to propel him to the next step. You know what I mean? And
Totally.
More opportunity for him to make more money and get him back to where he needs to be. But when it comes to the one discipline, like you said, revert back to the question you said, he has fought nothing but champions for the last how many years?
Yeah.
So this is almost second nature for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be excited to see how he comes out. But like I said, as of right this second, I would probably say Jake Paul's a better boxer than Tyron Woodley.
Wow. Okay.
When I saw technique-wise, Tyron's crisper, but I mean, age, speed, power, it all
totally.
does come down to something at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I believe Tyron still has his power. It's the last thing to go, but speed. Can he get out of the way?
It's a huge factor,
can he? Yeah. It's hit and not be hit. That's the game of boxing. It's a totally different sport than MMA, and a lot of people misconstrued that when they see these two. When they see a fighter from MMA come over to boxing and collide, they just believe it's going to be the whole range. Everything's completely different. So it's just up in the air. Well, that's it. And this one's up in the air. The Askren one, I knew he wasn't coming out on top of that. I had told you that. I said. There was no way. He just got done hip surgery and all that. But this will be a true test.
Ben Askren looked like he was a plumber that just came off a 12-hour shift. So, but I'm glad that you brought up the All Access and more specifically Tyron Woodley in the studio, because as you and I had talked on the Dustin Taylor podcast, which you and I do every week, you had mentioned that while yes, Jake Paul is hungry, not having money is also going to make you extremely hungry and fight for your family and fight for yourself, which is, what kind of led me to believe that Tyron Woodley is going to win this fight. What is your take on Jake Paul's input into the All Access? Because I didn't even know that he was training with some of the best that, has been in boxing, has been around boxing for some years now. That's
what money can buy.
Yeah, no doubt.
The best, and he's no shortage of money, and that's what actually, when I was watching the All Access, I'm not one who really likes the heel persona per se, and he dove right into that, and hey, it's worked, so I'm not here to hate on it. I respect everything he's done career-wise. I was never a huge fan of him as a person. As I watched this All Access, it really highlighted who he actually is as a person, instead of this persona he holds on camera. And to be honest, not a bad dude, bro. Like, I saw him doing
I felt the same way.
I saw him doing the boxing bullies for the kids to give back from, like, he dealt with online bullying his whole life. And some people may say, oh, well, money buys all happiness. That's a whole nother story on, for another day. But you see a lot of people with a lot down just due to the hate they receive online. And big into the meditation, the manifestation, something I hold dear to my heart as well, and trying to learn and prosper in that avenue in my life as well. And hey, I got to respect it. The guy came from, YouTube, and he's doing this now.
That's true.
And like I said, we like we had stated on the pod before, last week there, we were talking about him taking this as his fourth fight.
Yeah.
And the fact that if you look at any boxers, and when they say, oh, why doesn't he fight a legitimate boxer? If you take a look at who they fought on their fourth fight,
yeah,
tomato cans.
True.
So,
Yeah. What was it? 10 and 102 for that one
Tommy
scrapper?
Fury? Yeah. Tommy Fury. Yeah, so got to give it to him, man. But like every fight right now that he takes is make or break for his career per se. That's what he's looking to do. And he's coming on Showtime after that joke of a show they put on Triller. Yeah. It's huge to come over to Showtime now, and they're not going to give you Nate Robinson.
No.
So here we go.
And they're not going to have Quavo and Huncho and all these other people walking down and performing. And it's not a show. It's now actually boxing. It's
so here we go. Yeah, here we go. Everything he had to do led him up to this moment. So this will tell. Yeah,
and this is obviously an easy answer, and I'm just going to lob it out there to you. The fights that he's had up to this point, we have another YouTuber, which was his first fight. You got Nate Robinson, who's a basketball player, who stands at 5'9". Then you got Ben Askren, who probably pound for pound was his best matchup in terms of weight and in terms of height, but he was 36, so that's 12 years older.
Fresh off a hip surgery.
Yeah, exactly.
Only wrestled, yeah.
Now we get to Tyron Woodley, who is 15 years older, 15 years his senior, but it looks, that he's his best athletic competition that he's experienced thus far.
By far. Mm-hmm. I heard he had a couple other options. I know Dylan Dennis would be one of them.
Okay, yeah.
And let me tell you, he picked the hardest option, being Tyron.
Oh, really?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, that's why it's I gotta respect it, man. I gotta respect it. So, yeah. Sorry, repeat that. What was the end question there?
Well, I just wanted to basically confirm that everybody knows this. I know this. I'm not even that big of a fight fan,
so,
but that this is definitely his biggest competition
by far
since he started fighting.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
So what's next then? My biggest criticism on Jake Paul, and just as a bystander, what's next for him? Because I'm seeing him fight basketball players and other YouTube stars and retired plumbers coming off hip injuries. When's he gonna actually fight a boxer? And who do you think, win, lose, or draw, who do you think Jake Paul's next opponent's gonna be in the ring?
This is who it will be if all goes correct on Sunday.
Okay.
Tommy Fury. If Tommy Fury wins, and Jake wins, that'll be his next fight. And he even stated this. I was listening to an interview he did with Ariel Helwani. It dropped yesterday, and he was just stating, he's a calculated dude, man. Mm-hmm. He moves, yes, marketing to a T. So he knows what the next play is as long as everything goes in plan, And Tommy Fury will be the next one. That being said,
he's a boxer, right?
Yeah, but like I said, and like we just said,
yeah.
What define boxer?
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? Jake Paul's also a boxer. If Tommy Fury is a boxer, then so is Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Because if you're fighting someone who's 10 and 102,
yeah,
0-0 doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, exactly. The only other person I had heard, I forget who had spoken on this. It might have been Michael Bisping on his podcast, but they had mentioned Andre Ward. He's a 36-year-old retired fighter. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's 32-0. And they mentioned maybe he could get back in the ring and fight Jake Paul.
I don't think so yet.
No,
I think people would like to see that, but 32-0, that's a hell of a step up from.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna wow, he's really getting into it.
That's a little much. I think Tommy Fury would be a good one to go next. I know he fancies himself like a Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor. He's always calling those guys out. Not yet, definitely not yet. But he's a big dude, man. Jake Paul's huge.
Yeah,
people
he is.
Man, he's 6'3", 200 and some pounds. He's a big dude. I know a lot of people look at him like, the YouTube or Disney star, but that's a pretty big dude. Tyron walks around 5'8", probably 85, 190. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
and
he's
he
a bit
fought
smaller,
at 170.
But
Tyron fought at 170, but he definitely cut 15, 20 pounds too.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said you watched the All Access, and I did as well. What did you think of the I love blank tattoo idea? Did you see that in the promo?
Yeah. Well, I saw that they've been Jake keeps trying to make bets with him and everything. I think it's kind of funny. Whatever, do your
They
thing.
agreed. He looked a little hesitant at first,
Well,
and I was like, oh.
He was. Well, the first bet Jake offered was to if he lost, or if he wins, he doubles his purse. If he loses, the other person. And Tyron said no. The tattoo came. Tyron asked the people, should I accept? They said yeah, so he accepted right there. He definitely didn't want to, you know what I mean?
No.
And then they were just talking on yesterday's press conference, and someone had asked if the bet's still on. And Tyron's like, I didn't agree to no bet. I just know I bet it beat his ass and all this. And I'm like, oh
wow.
no. And I kept hearing Tyron go on, though. One thing I didn't like, I kept hearing him, not in the All Access. It was in a previous interview. I think he did the one with Ariel Awani as well. And he was really talking himself up, almost like he had to reassure himself that like he still had it. You know what I mean? And I saw him in the All Access actually going back at his old victories he had, and it's like that's not now, man. So let's
going through the photos and shit.
Well, it builds your confidence to remember, and it can be used as a positive or a negative. Is it? I'm wondering, is he trying to build reassurance, or is he just trying to remember and just know, like, yo, this is me. I'm built for this. This is who I am. Because like you can't take Tyron Woodley as the washed up version of himself that people keep claiming. I think that's very disrespectful to what he's the legacy he's left in mixed martial arts and hopefully what he has to come next.
Yeah, for sure. So sticking with the All Access, and Jake Paul maybe not being as bad of a guy as everyone thinks. One piece I did really like about it when he was training with and kind of alongside a female fighter. Amanda Serrano, I believe, was her name. Yep. So she's one of the best women fighter there is. 12 years she's been doing the sport. 7 division champion, 40-1. What's your thoughts on that? Kind of her, in an era where we want to make sure that everything is involved and everyone is included. What do you think of him bringing along a woman fight in the card for Sunday?
Beautiful, and he bumped it up to the co-main actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
One thing and he bumped that up. He talked to Showtime and bumped it up to the co-main.
That's
one
awesome.
thing I gotta say, he's the only person being as vocal about fighter pay, than anybody in this game.
True.
You know what I mean? Like he went to Showtime, asked what everybody's getting paid, bumped everybody's pay up, saw what they got paid their last time they were out.
No way.
Oh yeah, man.
Wow.
So, like I said, I'm not here to, I'm not here to love Jake Paul, but I'm here to respect a man that does what he's doing. So here it is. But he bumped it up to the co-main. He's letting her use every facility and access that he has, that money can buy, because it's unfortunate that women just don't generate enough revenue in majority of sports. To get the paydays, but it is definitely being more noted now, and I love it.
I think like what you said is kind of bang on the head there. It's you don't have to like him, but the respect should be given. Especially like I didn't know about him bumping her up and the pay. I think that's really important. That he's not only looking out for himself and being a selfish person, he's kind of being selfless and looking out for all the fighters. So. One more question I want to ask you when it comes to Jake Paul specifically, and not so much about the fight. Do you think with Jake Paul, his popularity on YouTube, his popularity just in social media in general, and for better or worse, his loud, his loud and aggressive voice that he has out there, do you think he's making the sport of boxing more popular, cool again? Because for a long time, really since the UFC has been around, boxing has kind of taken a nosedive, and UFC mixed martial arts has risen up to the top.
Oh, most definitely. He's brought a whole different age demographic. Now, one thing a lot of the fighters on these cards that they get on the Jake Paul card get misconstrued is the fact that they're going to take some of these young fans with them. It's not the case. You know what I mean? It's just not how that really works in today, because anyways, people understand, and they are starting to understand that. But like that's what I mean by him signing with Showtime to really legitimize, like his career. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that was important.
yeah, that was a huge step. You know what I mean? For people to really start taking him as a serious boxer, and especially after, like I mentioned before, the Triller show,
Yeah.
it didn't put a good look on it. So now here he is, and yeah. Well,
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was on All Access or if it was on another interview I watched, but they were talking about how Jake Paul was really unhappy with Triller and just the kind of the show that they put on and the antics
Pete Davidson
they had.
was roasting
Pete
him.
Davidson,
Yes.
they thought it was a joke. And again, if Jake Paul is really focused on taking this career seriously, he wants everyone else around him to take it seriously as well.
Most definitely. Yeah.
So be all end all.
Prediction?
Jake Paul right now is the favorite to win. I think he's minus 200 to win right now. Tyron Woodley, I think, is plus 170 as the underdog. Who do you have in this fight?
Jake Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to pick him.
Yeah.
Let me give some reasoning. Like I said, when I saw that man, and I know like everybody in MMA, the UFC, any promotion, any athlete takes the ice bath, and I'm not holding this down to the man getting an ice bath. You know what I mean? And that's how things are recorded, and they get cut to the recording studio. It's probably to put that notion in your head. I don't mean to discredit Tyron, but if that's what he's still working on right now, if he's still got the distractions, I can't see a different outcome. Also, and I'll also throw in Jake Paul is not Vicente Luque, Colby Covington. He's not Tyron's opponents that he lost to, but he's stepping into a different game when it comes to boxing. So I'm going to have to go Jake Paul.
Yeah, and I think prior to this, like when we discussed on the last episode, I think prior to watching the All Access, I would have went with Tyron Woodley. But again, just like you mentioned, that recording studio clip, that has really stuck with me because it's just like, bro, you're getting ready for a fight. Like, you should be focusing on the fight. Everything that you do, everything that you eat, breathe, and sleep should all be about the fight and preparation for the fight. Like, you shouldn't have time to jump in the studio and record and tell your mom to leave because she's snoozing on the couch. Like, you should be focused, on getting ready for your bout with Jake Paul. So I totally agree with you.
Are you familiar with Tyron's mom?
I'm not,
she's
but
a legend, brother.
I heard. So please tell the people why she's such a legend in the fight community.
Well, I wish I could pinpoint every aspect, but one that comes to mind right away is when Kamaru Usman beat Tyron Woodley for the welterweight championship, and his mom, Tyron's mom, went and hugged Kamaru after the fight and said congratulations and don't be sorry. Like it's your time. Make sure you protect this because everybody will be coming for you. And she is beautiful woman, brother. Like the energy she exudes, and man. Every time after his performances, you see her go, and people, the people that have lost to Tyron, she'll go comfort them after, and just, it's beautiful, man. She's a legend, has been a face in the UFC community for a long time. So it was good to see her on All Access as well, and
it's more than just fighting for her.
Well, even when Tyron was training in All Access, she was saying, a champ isn't by belt, it's how you feel, and just stuff like that. So it just, that positive reassurance, especially from your own mother, right there at the camp, it's big too. So, like, that's why I'm so conflicted. I had to, I him and haw when I'm going to pick. My brain says Jake Paul, my heart wants Woodley to win. So, tomorrow.
Sunday, it's exciting. Yeah, at 7 o'clock. That will be the first fight, right? It won't be the actual Jake Paul fight at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, the main card's at 7, or is the main card at 10? Maybe we should...
Probably the main card is probably at 10. I know that the event begins at 7 o'clock, so...
After the press conference, someone was saying some stuff to Woodley's mom, actually, and Woodley almost...
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's the other thing, too. Like, if she's highly respected, in the fight scene, doesn't matter if she's highly respected or not. You don't be saying anything about, another person's family, but especially another man's mom. So that was interesting because Tyron Woodley came out and said, like, Like, forget all this. Like, we don't even need to worry with the fight. Like, I don't care about the cameras because, like, you're not going to come in here and disrespect my mom. Like he said you'll start to see orange bodies start dropping, and I guess that's the color.
They all had orange on, all Jake's people. Tyron's got a weird demeanor to him. Like, he's not a big people person. A lot of people. He was never a big fan guy, and even when he talks, it kind of comes off cringy, but that boy don't play. Like, he really comes from that, you know? So
he comes from Ferguson, Missouri, and they definitely have some rough routes around there.
Yeah.
For sure.
So he made his way, and to make your way fighting and being a champion like that, bro. Yeah, don't play with them. Orange bodies would have been dropping.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Now,
so I need to know though, bro.
Oh, true. You want me?
You're up.
It's difficult because again, I'm here as a fan of the sport, not even so much as an analytical fan. I just like the entertainment aspect of it, and I was rooting for Tyron Woodley before watching the All Access. But again, I go back to that clip in the recording studio, and I just don't know if he has, the actual killer instinct and the killer mentality like Jake Paul does for this fight. So I'm going to take Jake Paul, and I'm going to take him in 5.
5.
Yeah. Because another thing I didn't even remember whenever they were talking in the All Access, like Jake Paul said himself, like, I've never really been in a long fight. All of my fights that I've done have been pretty short, pretty quick. Now Logan Paul seems to think that he's going to knock him out in the first round. Now I don't know. I think I'm going to give a bit more respect to Tyron Woodley than that, but I'll say 5, kind of middle of the round. Or
that's
middle
surprising.
Of the fight.
I'm going to say that's kind of surprising.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, in my perspective, Tyron's gone 5 rounds, hard 5 rounds, for as long as you can remember, except for it would have been the last 3 fights.
Okay.
Actually, no, because those were even main events, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on it. Anyways, majority of his career is 5-round fights. 25 minutes. So they're going 8 3-minute rounds. What's that total up to? 30. That's
8, 16, 24.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
24 minutes.
So 25 minutes Tyron's used to going.
UFC, okay.
And I mean, it's different staminas and gas tanks you're using when you grapple and strike, but I must say, as someone who's done it for a couple years, the grappling gas tank is quite heavier.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, if
you're literally wrestling, so yeah.
Yeah. There's no break, but boxing's no break as well, and that's why but it's 2 different gas tanks. So that'll be interesting when it comes to conditioning, because Jake would have been preparing for boxing conditioning and striking conditioning for the last 4 years, where Tyron is doing MMA conditioning. It's 2 very different things.
That's true. So
in this, Tyron was saying, this is the first. He feels almost the best. Well, everybody says this before a fight. I feel the best I've ever felt, but he's never even done boots to the ground conditioning before. This is the first camp he said he's ever ran. So
yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if it's going to be a knockout or if it's literally going to go to a decision. Like, what's your thought on that? Do you think, like, if Jake Paul's going to win, do you think it's just going to be, a right hook clean to the jaw, or do you think it's going to be, round 8
I don't think he'll
and
fold.
They're raising his hand?
I don't think that he's not going to fold like Askren, but
yeah, or Nate Robinson.
Well, yeah, I think a couple. I can't really see it playing out, man. I'm not gonna lie, but like
It's
I said,
tough, right?
because I think I think he's gonna knock him out in 1 or 2.
Wow, early.
Man, I really do. I really.
He's gonna bait him. Like, again, I was watching sort of his process. He kind of baits it with the body, allows them to come in, and then just swings over.
That's on Askren.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Very different strikers,
Okay.
Yeah. And Tyron's boxed at wild card. That's the thing too, man. Like, you forget these other things. Tyron has boxed at wild card boxing for like 10 to 15 years. Like, wild card boxing, that's no joke of a gym. Okay. Champions come out of that gym.
Wow.
So Freddie Roach works out of there. Manny Pacquiao's head trainer. Freddie Roach, bro, legend in the game of boxing. And it was funny. I remember Askren actually went to Wild Card, did like a photo op there for a day, posted it, and he was supposed to go back the next couple of days or spend the week down there, and no-showed Freddie Roach. Very disrespectful, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
And when that news came out, everyone knew, and it was just prior to the fight, and everyone was like, "Oh, damn, pull your money out, man. Askren is going down." So yeah.
Wow.
This is Askren fought for a paycheck. Woodley's fighting for his career, and Woodley says all the pressure's on Jake. I don't believe it for a second.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't
believe that for a second, man.
Like, he's just getting started. Like, he's got a long career ahead of him. He's only 24 years old.
And that's why I was saying earlier about Tyron, like, giving himself these reassurance that I am still that guy. Because when he said that, I'm like, oh, you got to be simple to ever think that.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. You know, you have less pressure than Jake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. No. I think you're
not
right.
Not at all. No. That is right. That. And so, like, to even tell yourself that, I already know you're lying to yourself in some aspects, so please, I hope you're not lying to yourself and you're looking back at these old pictures saying, I'm the greatest, because the subconscious knows what the conscience is lying about.
It's going to come out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're going to get, like Jake Paul said, you're going to get in the ring, he's going to feel those first few shots, and he's going to say,
He's not a small boy.
No.
That's it. He hits. So, you know, Askren has been, a lot of people like to think he took a dive. Who knows? I'm not going to say yes or no, but he's never been dropped like that. And, I mean, he's been beat by 4-ounce gloves many times. Like, not many times, sorry, because he was a world champion. But Robbie Lawler, let me tell you, took it to him, and he didn't go out. For him to fall like a sack of potatoes to Jake Paul, it tells you something.
It's saying something, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so moving off this boxing fight, this much-anticipated boxing fight on Sunday, let's get into a little bit of UFC talk. What do we got coming up in some future cards in the UFC?
Right now, actually, tonight we have Edson Barbosa versus Jukazian, I think is how you pronounce his last name. GG is what a lot of people call him.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of his fights. I got to be honest, man, not 100% familiar with him. Edson, I love. One of the best kicker in the game. Best kicker in the game. So I love watching him. I love watching him come out. Never a boring fight when you got Edson. Nice. I actually don't know. Let me actually bring this card up, too. I don't know if there's any other spectacular ones on this. Ricky Oh, Kevin Lee's fighting. Kevin Lee's fighting. Wow, tonight. Here we go. Daniel Rodriguez, man. That's a really good bout. Kevin Lee's got to come back and prove himself, let me tell you.
What kind of fighter are Kevin Lee and his opponent tonight? What kind of style do they fight?
Well, Lee is a known wrestler, but if anybody has saw his head kick KO on Gillespie, they would think different because
that's probably one of the most gruesome things I think in the UFC is just to get a foot to the dome, like
shin bone to the cheekbone. They like to say, eh?
Yeah.
No, I'm just looking here. One sec. That's not a too packed of a card. I see someone from the Ultimate Fighters on there, so good to see someone got their chance. Tom Aspinall, Sergi, but we have September 4th, Derek Brunson and Darren Till. That is an interesting fight. Darren Till was supposed to fight him, last month, and he broke his collarbone, so good to see he came back and recovered well from that.
He broke his collarbone last month, and he came back?
No, they were supposed to fight last month. He broke his collarbone months ago, so they had to move the fight back another month and a half. So enough of these fight nights, though. UFC 266, September 25th, baby. That is packed.
Now, is that the one with Diaz?
Are you familiar? Yes. Are you familiar at all with Nick Diaz now?
Who?
Or just Nate?
Was it Nate Diaz that fought McGregor?
Yes.
Okay, then I know him. I'm not too familiar with his brother Nick Diaz. So is he kind of the same style, just old school, stand on your feet and just throw haymakers?
He's the OG. He's the OG. That's why everyone was so familiar with Nate when Nate came in. You know what I mean? And really, so. Little quick backstory from Nick and why you haven't maybe saw him in a long time.
Okay.
He was a Strikeforce champion. What a great fighter. I don't know if you've ever came along and heard the GSP grease gate where he was greased up.
It
that
sounds
was
familiar.
Penn. That was Penn. Never mind.
PJ Penn, yeah.
This was the IV. This was the IV thing they were talking. Nick said George had someone from the hospital like poison his IV the night before the fight because that's how they used to hydrate, right? That's how they used to hydrate.
Okay.
They would cut weight and then IV hydrate themselves. That's legal now because people were adding a little something in their IV,
something extra there.
a little ice in their water, you know.
Yeah, no doubt.
So Nick lost to GSP, and then he got when weed was like crazy illegal in the world and whatnot, you know. USADA, that was a ban for life, and he came back and tested so positive that he must have smoked about 2 to 3 blunts in the dressing room before he went out and fought. Yeah,
Oh my
that's
God.
Nick Diaz for you. And so he
Just
goes
didn't
out,
give a fuck.
never has, still doesn't. Remember the name.
Yeah.
Diaz Army, baby, 209 Stockton. And then, so we got banned for life from USADA for marijuana. And now it's legal.
So they reinstated
for
him.
USADA. It was he fought it for a bit, and then it got reduced to 5 years, and then his 5 years came up, and we have Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler too.
Wow. Okay. So that's this one that's coming up on the next big card there. Okay.
Yeah, 266. Nick fought Robbie when he was 21, I think.
Jeez. And how old is he now? Like, how long ago was that?
I'm going to tell you right now. One sec. Let me look this up. I don't have Diaz's age on the docket here. 38. Wow.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's a, like, because I see Tyron Woodley, and now you're talking about Diaz, like, he being 38. Like, what is considered, like, old for a MMA fighter?
When you start losing.
Fair, okay. So you can rock until you're 42 as long as you're bringing in those W's. Then
I mean, you can rock till whenever as long as you're bringing in the W's, but it normally doesn't go on past 36.
When was
It depends
GSP,
what weight class.
Like, when did he kind of hang him up?
Oh, GSP. Now you're talking prior to the Michael Bisping fight, right?
Sure, yeah.
That's a good question. I gotta look this up. My memory is not on the Ariel Hawani type memory. When did GSP retire? I know it was after the Johnny Hendricks.
Because it's interesting because, like, obviously it's a sport where there's a lot of head trauma, so you have to think that factors in to the longevity of you playing in the sport.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, that goes to show with every sport nowadays. Yeah, so, and like, a lot of people will feel those ramifications later in life. It's the blown out knees multiple times that you feel, you know, the hip replacements, the broken ribs, the broken
shin.
everything, you know, the head trauma is what comes last, and you don't even really realize it, you know, it just eventually deteriorates. But back to that last thing, GSP November 16th, 2013 is when he hung him up, and then when he came back in 2019 it was, when he fought Bisping.
That was kind of like just that was just a fun thing, really, right? It wasn't like for serious.
No, that was serious. That was for the middleweight championship of the world.
Really? Okay. So I thought maybe it was just more like not an exhibition. Like, obviously it was for the title, but I thought maybe it was more like coming out of retirement for like a little one-off fight.
He was supposed to fight again too.
Okay. Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That was in the clause. That was in their contract and everything. Dana did not like that. And then GSP was kind of pushing for the Khabib fight, probably like a year or so ago now. And then Dana said no. And now Dana wanted Khabib back so much, and now he actually offered it to George, and then Khabib said no. So.
Now why would he say no?
Who, Khabib?
No, why would Dana White say no to George St. Pierre fighting?
Because he didn't want. So this is when Khabib was the 155-pound champion. He didn't want him to come back, beat him, and then leave again. Right? When you just grab the title like he did off Bisping and bounce, it's like it kind of it makes the division a little like illegitimate. Like, who's the champion? The champion just came and beat the champion. Now just gone.
It's
like,
not even here.
So everyone's just a runner-up at that point, I guess. You know.
Yeah.
So he didn't want that to happen again. But now that the belt was relinquished and none of them are champions now, it would be a great super fight, but Khabib's never coming back.
Yeah. Now, one more question about another UFC. Speaking of Khabib, what's next for Conor McGregor? Obviously, they had the Poirier versus McGregor. You're a huge McGregor guy. For those that don't know, it's 2-1 Poirier now.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next for McGregor? Does he need to just start siphoning milk into his barrel, or
what's next for him is they got to take his phone away. Is what's next for him, because that guy is doing nothing but sitting on Twitter and saying some outlandish stuff to people, and it very disrespectful. And someone who's like you mentioned, like I'm a big fan. I'm definitely a Conor supporter, but way too far past that line. That he's taking things with just stuff he said about Habib and his dad. Here's a great one. Habib's dad passed from COVID. God rest his soul. And Conor said, and when Dustin beat Conor, Habib tweeted, "Good always defeats evil." Conor responded, "So COVID is good and your father was evil?" Yeah. So.
Wow.
And just like
bro,
when you start to there's only so many passes you get. Like John Jones, we know he's a shit person, a hell of a fighter, but a shit person. And like when you've gone from all the charges he's had, the allegations, the punching an old man as much as everything, and then still doing this stuff, it's like, oh come on, man, you got 3 kids and stuff. It's just.
Wow.
You know how actors fall in love with their character so much they become them?
Yeah.
I think that's what we're seeing in front of our eyes.
Which is interesting, because I was going to ask, because McGregor's always had that kind of, for lack of a better term, wild Irishman, a little leprechaun acting a fool, right? And then once he had that Poirier fight, remember, because I think you had mentioned he was either became an alcoholic or was on drugs or something like that, and then he did the bus thing. He was throwing a chair at a bus or something like that. But when it came to the second fight between Poirier, it was a whole different McGregor. There was a lot more respect between the two of them. He was, dapping him up after the fight. They were trading like liquor and hot sauce, and then something happened. He reverted back to the old McGregor before the third, and now it just seems he's on that train, but maybe for worse.
Well, where it flipped was Dustin put out publicly that Conor had yet to donate the $500,000 he mentioned that he was gonna donate to his charity.
Okay.
And Conor simply was looking for where that money was gonna go before it gets sent, right? Like you can't just gift someone $500,000. Like you do have to have a plan for that money, so that the person that is sending the money can take and understand where the money went, where it's allocated, tax purposes, and all that. It's stuff that a lot of people don't understand, and they like to pick at. Say that was bad as Conor with all these deals and talking all this money, it was a bad look for Dustin to say that. So Conor actually donated $500,000 to a charity in the exact same city as Dustin, and it was to the Boys and Girls Club, so a great charity and whatnot.
Yeah.
And Dustin said, at least the city of Lafayette got it, and good. But that's where everything turned.
Wow. And do you think, we were just talking about, head trauma and how that happens over the years. Do you think that maybe, CTE is starting to kick in, or do you think Conor's just, again, falling in love with the character?
No, I think EGO is kicking in.
EGO?
EGO.
Oh, EGO, Eagle. Okay. I like that one. I like that one.
I don't think it's CTE. I think it's EGO. I think it's his ego and pride is really hurt, man. He's a great loser when it's not happening consecutively.
Yeah, true. Fair enough.
And
this would be one of the first times ever that's happened consecutively, at least on this big of a stage, right?
Yeah. In MMA, he's never lost twice in a row yet. Yeah. And honestly, man, the game, just like time, it doesn't wait for anybody, and it passes us by. And that's why they say enjoy your 15 minutes when you get it, because it doesn't last for everybody. The world moves on. The next crop comes up, and that's just what it is. Now, when you ask what's next for him, that's a good question. Couple options. You can see what Poirier and Oliveira, what happens there. That'll be for the lightweight championship of the world, 155 pounds. And that's not booked yet. I'm sure it'll happen late this year, November, December. Okay. We'll see what happens there. Now, it doesn't seem like Dana's far off if Dustin wins it and has the belt, that he wouldn't be like, hey, Conor just goes in and fights him again. That would be completely wrong.
For the belt?
Yeah, and like,
Wow.
I can't see that happening personally, just because how that just destroys anything you're setting up
Sure.
ranking wise or anything in general. It makes everything look completely terrible. Anyways,
You're just chasing the highlight instead of
well,
actually
yeah,
integrity of the sport.
And that's why you have mentioned prior to seeing mixed martial arts explode while boxing kind of took a backseat. It's because the business model behind, say, the UFC specifically. Well, every MMA promotion is like this, but they were there first with it, and that was the best fights, the best,
Yeah.
and that in turn makes the best fights. People want
Sure.
to see the best fights. That's why boxing kind of settled back, because there was great fighters, but they were fighting tomato cans. So
Yeah,
you're not
true.
going to pay for you'll never pay when you know the end. You're not going to go see a movie that you saw the end of 40
That's
times,
true.
right?
Yeah.
You know what happens. And that's why, man, even Mike Tyson, when he was boxing, there was a promise at one point where if he finished him in the first round, the people would get their pay-per-view money back or ticket
That's funny.
money back. I forget what it was exactly, but yeah, they got their money back if he won within the first round, because everybody knew that was going to happen. So
That's funny. Well, my man, I thank you for coming on and talking some UFC and more importantly, this upcoming match between Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul. Is there anything that you want to leave the people with before we sign off today?
I don't have anything crazy. If you want to follow me at _ Dustin Taylor everywhere, like I said, I'm an artist, so you can go stream the music too. And
100%.
yeah, pleasure is all mine, brother. I appreciate you greatly. And Overrated Underdog, the underdog's on top, baby.